Yes, excellent. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live. We haven't done one for a while, and I'm glad to say that we are back with an awesome guest speaker this evening. We've got Dr. Isla Fishburn, who I actually trained with however many years ago. Let's not put the number in there. And we did some zoopharmacognosy training together. But the reason that Isla's here tonight is because she's going to talk to us about how to use shamanic healing and shamanic practices with cats. So Isla's really passionate about conservation, ecosystem health, and reconnecting people, reconnecting them to nature. And this is where Isla believes that true healing begins. So she combines science with indigenous wisdom and earth-based practices to create complete wellness for the individual and for the collective. So she uses vibrational health and ecosystem stability and longevity as her focuses to help animal friends. So the reason that I asked Isla to join us this evening is because she posted on Facebook about a cat that she'd worked with and the messages that had come through. And I was stunned, beautifully stunned. So I've asked Isla to come and join us tonight to talk about her work. So without further ado, I welcome Dr. Isla Fishburn. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that little applause as well. I'm like that. I feel like I need to do a little curtsy or whatever. Yeah, it's beautiful to be here in this space, and welcome everybody. Hello, hello. I know I can't see all your beautiful faces, but welcome into this space. Come in and let's have a beautiful chat together. Yeah.
Definitely. So let's crack on because I've got oodles of questions, and I know this is going to be a topic that I know for sure I'm going to be sat here just listening to every word you have to share. So the way that I view cats, I call it something four paws to perfection. And I've talked about this before with my community about looking at the mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health of cats, because I think that all elements need to be considered. You need to look at all aspects and look at the cat in complete, in its entirety. So the spiritual paw is one that I am so passionate about, and it's one that I think we're not talking about enough, which is the primary reason I wanted to, share your voice with my community, because shamanic healing is something that as a human I've always been intrigued by, but never brave enough, I think it's probably the right word, to investigate it more. But recently I feel really drawn to that modality or that way of being. So I'm a complete novice. I know like nothing about it. So let's pretend that everyone else is the same. And, can you start off by telling us like, what is a shamanic healing? What is shamanic practices sort of thing?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Wow, 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 wow. So such a beautiful question, and I love what you said about it kind of like you're being drawn to this kind of way of being, and because that's exactly what it is in terms of shamanism itself. It's a way of life that any individual can choose. It's not, a lot of people kind of still think that shamanism is a religion, or people will kind of, I don't know, there is a fear, for some people there's a still vibrational energetic fear around shamanism, thinking it has a set of rules which religion has, and it's nothing to do, it's not like if you don't do this you're going to go to hell or you're going to be haunted or anything. It's just like, wow, there is a choice here. You can choose to live this way, and if you do, it creates this wholeness, which is for me, what wellness is about. Wellness is oneness, is wholeness, is interconnectedness to everything. And so it's the principle of everything that is living has a soul, everything that is living has a spirit. So when we take it from example with our cats now are the body of a cat in this moment in this life, but they have been many things and will be many things, and that's really what the soul is. So from a shamanic perspective, it's strengthening the spirit, strengthening the soul, living from spirit, living from soul, honoring the soul in everything, whether it's a blade of grass, whether it's the water, whether it's the father sun or grandmother moon. It's, we are connected to everything, and therefore everything that's outside of us is also within inside of us. And so your traditional shamanism is the principle of it's Siberian, and it translates, it's actually anthropologists that were like, they I can't quite remember the full story, but I'm sure I'm right in saying that it's anthropologists that created this term shamanism, but it comes from Siberia, and it translates to keepers of the fire, or the one who knows. And it's the one who knows, because the one that is always connecting, the one the principle of you just know. People say to me like, well, how do you know that? And it's, you are filled with so much trust because you're connected to spirit. And so when you're living from that place, for me it's like, in spirit I trust. You can't be like, oh well when I'm doing this I trust spirit, but not when I'm doing this. You're like either all in or you're all out. You can't be a little bit in and a little bit out.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to this place of like, wow, everything that I'm experiencing is because I'm supposed to be experiencing it. Everything where I'm at in my life at this time is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and everything is showing up to support us as messages. And this is what's so beautiful: when we go about our business, when we're on our phone or stressing about something, we're oblivious to these messages. But when we create a sacred space like I do for my community, then we just pay attention to everything that shows up, because it's there to know that we are heard, we are held, we are supported with these messages. But about the beauty of life, which again, as a human being, we can choose to go, am I going to follow this route of strengthening my spirit, strengthening my soul? And like you said, I'm the same. I look at it, we work within the medicine wheel, or the sacred hoop that every being stands within. So we all have this circle, the circle of life, and the circle within ourselves, which is about emotional nourishment, physical nourishment, mental nourishment, but also spiritual nourishment. And for me, it's like, if we're not looking at spiritual nourishment, if we're not looking at this soul side, then our hoop is distorted, our hoop is bent, it's out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And because everything has a pull on everything else, like, as we are sat here, our actions, our words, our thoughts don't just have a pull on things really close to us, but things like thousands of miles away. Everything has an effect on the web. And within our own kind of circle, within our own medicine wheel, within our own hoop, as it were, then spiritual nourishment, or for want of a better word, spiritual malnourishment, hugely affects physical nourishment, mental nourishment, and emotional nourishment. So we can be focusing all those three things to the best of our efforts, which we are doing in the animal industry, but we're still just kind of like, oh yeah, there's like a soul thing, but we're not really ready to talk about it, or people don't quite understand it, so we'll just kind of throw it in there but not go deep into the teachings. Whereas for me, I'm like that, guys, like, sometimes issues cannot be resolved. I mean, sometimes issues can't be resolved because there's no issue in the first place, but sometimes issues can't be resolved because I'm like, it's the spirit of this animal that is fatigued, that is depleted, that is lost, that is not being fully supported. And so yeah, really going into the teachings behind what the soul is, teaching behind of how everything is a spirit. As I say, that, you know, we are human now, we might come back as a blade of grass another time, we might come back as another animal another time, we might come back as a mushroom another time, because the way that it's been shown to me is it's like it's a chapter in a book. So our life right now is just simply a chapter in a book, and it's like, okay, well, that chapter's finished, we're now on to chapter 3. Okay, it's like another story. But yeah, really maintaining this the one who knows, and it's not a knowing, it's not a I know from an intellect perspective. And this is the problem when we do the soul work, and when we start to explore our lives and life from a spiritual perspective and from the spirit. You can't dissect the soul, and as humans, that's what we've been taught. We need to tease us apart. You can't dissect the soul, and as soon as you do that, you kill it, you destroy it. But this work goes beyond what the mind can comprehend, which is why for a lot of people it's quite difficult to kind of get back into that rhythm again. For me, the knowing is like, we are genetically ancient beings. We're genetically ancient humans that live in a modern day world. So this is in all of us. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. And you're true shamans even to this day, in Mongolia, in Siberia, in Australia, in Africa, in South America, North America, throughout the world. There are still true blood shamanic communities that are in ceremony every day, are connecting to the elements, to the directions. I mean, my day always starts with a morning practice, a very strict, dedicated, like, that is non-negotiable for me. Like, I do my daily practice. There's one at the end of the day, and an afternoon one. Sometimes I don't do my afternoon one, sometimes I do. But it's this really, it's a dedication. I don't want it to be like this strict rule, like nothing's going to happen if you don't do it, other than you're going to kind of notice a difference in how you feel, but it's honoring everything that is around you. And so it's always really funny for me, because as a kid, like I just have known about the concept of shamanism, and as a child I read a lot around indigenous wisdom. I don't really know where it came from, but I just had this interest. And I used to pretend as a child, I'd be like, oh, I'm pretending I'm a shaman, because I was like, I'm a white English woman living in this era. Like, that's never going to happen. And so, of course, I'm not a blood shaman. I mean, in some respects, we all are, because it's from our ancestors. So in some respects, we all are a blood shaman. But it's been so, like, pulled away and so diluted that, yes, I do shamanic practices. I do shamanic healing. I do shamanic teaching. I live a shamanic life. But I'm not like a true raw blood shaman.
Mm-hmm. So that fascinating, right? I'm gonna have to keep an eye on the time, because this is a topic I feel like I could just dive in and get lost in.
We can chat away.
Tell me what when you say you do a morning practice and an evening practice, I want to know a little bit more about that, if you're happy to share it. It's not too private, before we kind of talk about the animal element. Is that okay?
Yeah, the principle is just often we can kind of wake up with the start of the day of picking up our phone and looking at social media or our emails or text messages, or, oh, well, this happened yesterday and I'm still carrying it over. And that's quite hilarious, because it's like the only person you're affecting is yourself. And so, the morning practice is I'm starting my day by strengthening my spirit, of looking at how my energy systems are, how my energy field is, so that I'm starting my day afresh, I'm starting my day anew with new energies, and really just focusing on my spirit and calling in spirit, connecting to spirit as a daily practice, which is what we would do because we've been asleep. Although with that, in my practice, dream time is really important. So I really honour my dream time as well, because when we do this work and when we live this way of life, we also get messages in our dream time. So if we kind of, are staying up till midnight and watching a horror movie till our eyes are kind of dropping, then we are going to continue dreaming about that horror movie in our dream. But it's like we clear the night time, so our dream time can be really powerful and strong, and you can get messages that way. And often actually my dream time I'll connect to ancestors, guides, my dogs, dogs that have passed, or messages that I need to hear, or sometimes healing. Sometimes I have healing as well. But my morning practice always begins with a dog walk. But I get up but this time of year, I mean, I normally get up at 6 a.m, but at the moment I've been getting up at 5:30 a.m, but it's silent. For me, it's like I have my dogs to coexist with them. I don't have any expectation of them. So we just go on this silent walk together. And with that, I live out in the country, so I'm really just honouring all of life, like the trees, like I always start the day with like I am grateful for today because I've never lived this day before, and welcome.
Sounds really mindful. Sounds really like, sorry to interrupt you there. It sounds like really like you're practicing, being really present in the
this is Dr Isla. We're going to walk with you. We do. We're not gonna forget about you, are we? Okay. Do you have anything to add? No? Yeah, so I mean there are elements of shamanic practice and teachings that are really coming into the forefront of science now, are really coming to the forefront of mental health and emotional health. So I mean, one of them is actually gratitude, which is a huge thing now, but it is just like, wow, I welcome the Father Son, I welcome the whatever element, like whether it's I'm out and it's raining or it's windy or it's still, or the bird calls. So just really soaking all of that in, of like what is presenting itself to me. So sometimes in the morning I'll see a barn owl, sometimes I'll see a buzzard, and just going, okay, that's showing up for also a reason. So that's how my day starts. You're at Dr Isla?
You're still there.
Bless her, I'm just going to close my door again. She's 13 and her back legs can sometimes give way a little bit. She's okay. And then after kind of my dogs are sorted, because that's my priority, my morning practice always smudge, like I smudge a lot, so just always a cleanse around my body. I use a feather to do that. That's start my morning practice. And then I go into a ceremony that I can't share fully, but it's basically paying attention and going into stillness and silence, of checking into my teachings of my sacred hoop. And there's some lessons and teachings with that, just to go, actually my east, just there's a little bit irritation there. where is that coming from, what needs to be cleared, what is the teaching behind that. Actually, am I bringing in the qualities of this teaching? Okay, have I remembered the quality of this teaching? So it's kind of like a self-check-in. It's like a diagnostic tool of like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
like how clear and bright, how strong is my sacred hoop, is my circle. So I'll do that. Then I love chanting, so I'll do like a morning chant to the 7 directions, to all the qualities of the teachings of each of the directions, and to above and below and to within, and then like a full circle. Then I'll do some morning singing and some more morning chanting. I'll do like a morning prayer. I'll then do a morning meditation, which works around my luminous energy field, works around my energy centers, and then just goes into stillness and silence, singing what messages come through for the day. Yeah, and then if there's time, I might I might do a journey. I might do like a 30-minute shamanic journey for myself. I always do that for if I'm working with an animal or a human client. And then I might then go into one of my other chants or songs or dances. But that then varies, like depending on how much time I have.
Yeah. Wow, I want to come and live at your house for a morning. That sounds amazing.
But like, this is kind of what I do on my longer courses for humans. We do all of this. That's the teaching that I hold.
Oh, amazing! I mean, I want to talk to you about those another time with you teaching for humans.
Yeah, it really is. It's just, making our spirit strong, making our soul strong. Just like this is where I'm starting the day, and just paying attention of, am I carrying anything over from the day before, or 2 days before, or 3 days before, and where is it that I need to be? And I think this is the beauty with all non-human animals. The only place they know to live from is the heart. Like, this is where they live, this is where they feel, this is where they respond. And that's why we love our animals so much, because they always show up with authenticity. Even if we like what they're doing or not, they're just like, hey, this is me, I'm being honest. And they're a beautiful, literally a reflection, a message of coming to the heart. And that's what my daily practice is about. I'm coming out of here and coming into here, this place that knows, that truly knows, without any judgment or blame or shame or analysing or like, oh, but what if? Just no, trust.
I'm really glad that you brought that round to animals, because like I said, I think we could talk about the human side for another hour, and I'm trying to talk about the cats.
Is a lot harder than the animal side. The human side is a lot harder than the non-human animal side.
So let's talk about cats, and what you said there about, our animals are truly present, and I think that's something that I've been trying to help people to realize, that our cats, they're in the moment. They want to clean, they clean. They want to eat, they eat. They want to connect with you, they'll connect with you. Do you know what I mean? There is no yes, some cats can obviously suffer with trauma and have emotional I can't know what the right word is. Emotional, I don't want to use the word baggage, that's such a human word, but do you know what I mean? Emotional wounds.
Wounds, yeah.
So tell me, what would you do to work with the cat? So you mentioned about this hoop, and I know that you've mentioned before about we can experience a soul loss. So tell me, like, how does that work for cats? What is that? So when you work with a cat and you use your shamanic practices, what are you doing? How are you trying to help them?
Such a beautiful question. So it's always funny, because there's still sometimes a little bit of the human ego comes in, because when I do these sessions, I just go in blind. Like, we all love our animals, and we love to talk about, like, oh, but my dog is like, I just do it to Casilla, oh, she's 13 and her back legs can go. We love to talk about animals, but what's really clear when I do this work is it's always from the perspective of the animal's soul. So I will set up the space so that I'm focusing on the animal's body at this moment in time, but sometimes the soul that is the cat at this moment in time actually wants to focus on something else from like a previous life, or really wants to focus on something that the human thinks is an issue, but the cat's like, I don't like, that's not a problem for me, or I don't want to like this is my time. And so it's opportunity for the cat to really share from their soul what their soul needs at this time. And so one of those things can be a soul loss. So I always say to my clients, like, really, I mean, yes, a photograph. I always ask for a photograph. And also ask if the animal has been neutered, because that can also affect the full circuit of the animal's energy. And particularly if you're doing a soul loss as well. But other than that, I'm like, I just kind of want to go in blind so that the cat's soul can share fully with me, rather than the human saying, oh, well, my cat scratches at this and I kind of want to know, oh, my cat's got like itchy skin and I'm like that. Okay, sometimes what the human wants to hear and know about and learn about is exactly what the cat wants to share. And sometimes it's just like, the cat's like, yeah, and like, that's like
that's
that
not something to worry about type thing.
That's something that I want to share about, which is really beautiful. So I always say, look, have no expectation to any outcome, because this, again, like I've said before, it goes beyond what the mind can comprehend. So we don't even analyze it. We're just like, this is what came through and this is what the animal is sharing with me. And so I always do, how I do this work is I will do like a 2-hour, it's normally around 2 hours, a shamanic ceremony on my own. So this is my medicine room, but it's all darkened out. So I'm in this darkened room, and I will start by doing an opening prayer. So I have like the photograph of the animal on my computer. I speak to my guides, and then speak to the soul of the cat, bring their soul into my room, and then I just open the space by calling in spirit. So I drum and I chant until I kind of feel like, woomph, okay, everything is now here. And then I start with shamanic dancing. So I'll always have a bandana over my third eye anyway, but then I cover it over my eyes and just start shamanic dancing, just to kind of really get into my body, get into my heart, connect with my guides, and see what comes through. And again, I remember one of the cats that I work with, which was beautiful because I never had it before, is when I saw the cat's soul was like in my room as I was doing the shamanic dancing, the cat's soul was testing me, and it was like all of a sudden there was just like a sea of crabs were coming to and really trying to pinch me, like trying to get me. But I was just like, do you know what? I know this is a safe space. I know that like it's not, because sometimes spirit can test you. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it can, from a place of fear, like, what are you going to do here? You're going to be afraid, because if you are, then you're not ready. Right. And so I just was like, I see you. I see exactly what you're doing here. And do you know what? Like, I'm not afraid. I know that this is just to see how I am and how present and how prepared I am to do this for you. And then this sea of crabs just cleared, and I went straight in to do some soul work with a cat. And that cat in particular needed a soul retrieval. So this concept of soul loss. Yes, so the concept of soul loss is basically anything that to that individual at that time is such a blow, such a shock. So it can be a trauma. It could be like a cat that's been kicked. It could be a cat that's been in a car accident. It could be a cat that's had a really traumatic time at the vet. It can be like a deep trauma, but it depends on the individual. So sometimes it could be something that is less severe. And I'm going to give you a human example, because hopefully I'll anchor into like how this occurs. Okay. So this is why doing shamanic work with humans is harder, because it takes longer, because we've got to bypass this. With other animals we don't. But this didn't happen, like part of this happened to me, but the soul loss part didn't happen to me. But when I was a kid, we had that kind of set meals, because my mum was really busy. She was a school teacher, so just to make it easy for her, we had like these set meals. So Tuesday night was always pie night, and I hate pie. I hate pie. Tuesday night was pie night, and someone, like, I don't know, for example, like, it's chicken and mushroom pie, and I'm like, that, Mum, I hate pie. And my mum was like, well, just eat the inside of it. I'm like, but it tastes of pie. I can't taste the chicken and mushroom, it just tastes of pie, because I hate pie. So I'll be like that, I'm not going to eat it. So this is the bit that didn't happen, but then for argument's sake, say my mum says to me, if you don't eat your pie, you're not going to have ice cream for dessert. And all I hear as a child is like that, oh, I don't need to eat the pie. Fine, I'm not going to eat it. My sister eats the pie, and she does get ice cream for dessert, and then I ask for the ice cream, and Mum's like, well, no, you didn't have your pie, so you're not having that ice cream as a reward, as a dessert. But instantly I go, there's something wrong with me. I must be a bad person, because my sister got the ice cream, and I'm being punished because I didn't. That can be enough for somebody who's maybe quite sensitive, vulnerable in kind of how weak their spirit is anyway, or just how sensitive they are from their life experiences, to make part of their soul just goes poof. I can't quite deal with that for the full blow. Poof. Part of the soul just literally, in modern day psychology, it's dissociation. It just, I was just about to say dissociation. Yeah, but it's a soul loss. So really simple things like that. I mean, not that human example for our cats, but little things can also warrant and cause a soul loss in a cat, in any animal. And this is a thing, like, if we have multiple soul losses, for some people and for some animals, multiple soul losses can actually lead to death, because so many parts of the soul are just like poop, 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 poop,
Yeah,
that they're just so open and exposed to all manner of different things coming in. Their physical nourishment has declined, their emotional and mental nourishment has declined. So as I do the shamanic ceremony, one of the things that I look for, and it depends, this is why sometimes in the first session a soul retrieval comes, sometimes it might be, I mean, normally if a soul retrieval is needed, that normally happens to me in the first session. It doesn't happen all the time, but largely so it does. And so then I work on the soul retrieval, and sometimes the animal's like, yes, 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 quick, quick, oh my goodness, thank goodness that you're here, thank goodness that you found me. Sometimes it takes a little bit of coaxing, because say for example, if it happened to the cat when they were a kitten, they're like, I'm not going to the big wide scary world ever again, like I'm safe here now, I'm safe here. And I have to say to them, yeah, but sweetheart, it's a different time now. This happened when you were a kitten, and you know you're a really big strong adult cat now, and you're in a home that's really loving and they protect you and support you. And sometimes you still then got to negotiate, and with that I'm working with my allies. So I work with my power animals. Sometimes I've got to call a guide forward, but I normally work with my power animals to do this. And I have one animal that kind of I send out that kind of finds for me, and then we come forward. And then what traditionally then happens for me is when the animal's soul part is ready, I'll pick them up, and then there's a particular technique that you perform where I'll blow into the heart 4 times, blow into the head 4 times, seal up that area, and then do some soul retrieval work. So it tends to be in a calling, in a song. I might drum. Sometimes it might be light language. Sometimes just the chant will come through, whatever I'm guided to then do. And I work on that until I know for that time that soul is now brought back. And then what I then get the client to do, the cat guardian to do, is to continue with the song in particular, because it's like when you jump into a river and all the silt kind of comes to the surface and it takes a while to just fall back down. People think even when people have a soul retrieval themselves, like, oh, I've definitely had a soul loss, or I feel like I've had a soul loss, I'm gonna have a soul retrieval, and bang, magic's gonna happen. I'm like, no, people can still take 2 years to feel the effect for humans. When a soul retrieval, it's almost like they feel something, but that full effect can take a while. Not so much for animals, it is different for non-human animals, but it still can take time. And then so I kind of give them this direction and instruction to continue singing this song, and just over a period of days, really getting the guardian to tune into their heart. So they're like, how long should I sing it for? How many times a day? And like, literally, we're not thinking now, we're not analysing, feel like, just even this is so brand new to you, just who cares? Use your imagination, trust, have an experience, and feel, and go for it. There is no right or wrong to this work. How I see things as a shamanic practitioner is different to how somebody else does. How I journey is going to be different to how anybody else journeys. There's no right or wrong. That's the beauty of it, because you're connecting to spirit, and spirit cannot lie. Spirit cannot analyze. Spirit can't go, are you sure? It's just
not
like,
quite right.
Yeah. And then there might be further instruction depending on the ceremony itself of what the cat may need. Like, I know the one that you saw, is this cat in particular wanted light language on its collar, which was the first time for me that I've ever had that instruction. So that's why it's so amazing. Like, there is an element where I'm like, that, am I making this up? But it's like, in spirit I trust, but it's never the same. Every ceremony is different. The words that I receive are different. What I do receive in these sessions, really pretty much every time, is I receive a symbol that is specific to the animal. It's almost like I'm really into symbols and sacred geometry, because that in itself holds a vibration. And so it's almost like this symbol that is presented to me, that I draw out. It's like, it's going to be used for the cat in some way. Sometimes I've put it into a cat's cells. Sometimes I've drawn it. Sometimes instructions being put it on your cat's collar. Sometimes people have made it into like a collar, or they've made it into like a placemat on the floor to see if the cat wants to lie on it, because it's a vibration. That symbol is holding a vibration that is like matching the soul, the original piece that cat is in terms of its soul. That, as I say, has been many things. Will be many things, but for this moment in time is having an experience as a cat, that cat in particular as an individual.
So tell me, like, I mean, that's fascinating. I feel like I'm saying, like, so tell me, how do you know, right? So if I've got people watching and
Yes.
they're completely new to shamanic world, you know, how would you know that your cat has had a soul loss, or how do you know that, you know, your cat would potentially benefit from having shamanic work? Or is it something that you know, you're always going to find a benefit because we always need help to find that balance and to nurture and nourish our sort of spiritual side?
Yeah, you know, it's such a good question because for me, because our cats, you know, at least our cats have the ability to have a little bit more freedom than maybe, for example, dogs or horses. And if they're certainly an outdoor cat, they can go like, human, you're really messed up today. I'm gonna go out for a few hours. But you know, they are a domestic animal in that sense. So for me, it's like all of us that have been domesticated, including ourselves, we are genetically ancient beings. So our cats are genetically ancient cats that are living in a modern day world, and that's really confusing for their indigenous blueprint that they have. And because they live so closely with us, or you know, a cat may be living in a household where they have still got rules and restrictions that are actually creating spirit depletion, that are dampening the strength of that cat's soul. That can affect then just the spiritual health, the spiritual nourishment of the cat. So for me, yes, where there is any physical, emotional, mental issues, challenges, intrigue, or if it's just like, wow, I've tried these various things and nothing's really working, or just like, wow, I just want to give it a go. And for me, it's just like, you can't have any expectations of particular outcome. So if you're just like, I want a shamanic ceremony for my cat and I expect this, then I'm like, well, you're probably going to be disappointed, because that's again for me, I'm like that. I would, if I had a client coming to me that way, or if that was my kind of expectation, then I would say you need to look with, not you need, because I never used that, but an invitation to look within. There is something there within the human, of their own belief systems, of their own, you know, so many of us inherently feel that there's something wrong with us. Fact, I mean, that's why so many humans have spiritual nourishment, therefore our domestic companion animals do, just by default, because we are kind of holding more of that anchor and that influence. So our vibration, it's like through entrainment, can massively affect the animals that live with us and that we live with. So there's this beautiful way of like, wow, if you're not ready to do it for yourself, then do it for your animals. Or again, our animals are individuals as well, so sometimes they do need this shamanic healing. Sometimes a soul retrieval is not needed, but what is needed is healing. And you know, I've worked with a cat where literally it was almost like cleaning a gun. We took the cat apart, every little piece of it, took it apart, cleared it all out, did some work, did a little ceremony, put it all back together, and took something else out. I've worked with cats that are like, yeah, I'm kind of carrying over a past life, like I know I'm a cat right now, but there's this thing that happened in a past life, it's not quite cleared. So that's why just anything be possible. And so yes, I do have people come to me where there's like, I can't quite, like this hasn't been resolved in my cat. And I'm always just like, okay, well, be open to that. This might never be resolved, because it might be what the cat is supposed to experience, having this spiritual journey also with the human. Like, you were both here to have this experience. And very much like I say with dogs as well, like cats, dog, animals that we live with, they're the most amazing messengers of what it is we also need for ourselves for healing. So I was like, for example, I had a client that was like, it's more of a dog, but like, oh, my dog just, sometimes I get so irritated with a dog, I'm so impatient. And so I say to them, okay, mirror that. Why do you have irritation about yourself? And at first they're like, well, I don't. I'm like, really, from a place of love and respect, I'm no blame or shame or judgment at all. I just invite you to just feel into it. Just don't analyze it. Just, where do you have irritation about yourself? Where is that coming from? And that's the thing. It's this beautiful thread that we just get to unpick and then go, oh. And then as we start to work on ourselves, and I'll say the same with Tunkasila and I have had a very traumatic life together. I was in an abusive marriage. We're both in an abusive marriage. So she carries a lot of trauma. I've had to do soul retrievals on her. Two of the biggest things that have helped her, one of them was the soul retrieval, but also working on myself, because all of a sudden it's like all this fogginess and this cloudiness just disappears, and our animals are like, thank you. Like, there you are. Can you see how this is not a problem? Can you see how you can just, and it becomes just like, yeah, okay, we're creating, it's almost like, we're so desperate to fix our animals because we want to fix ourselves, but it's too painful, it's too fearful, or what happens if someone laughs at us, or they judge us, or we don't get it right. That is just, it's just like, that's just not true. It's just a reality that we tell ourselves. That's not a true reality. this is our true reality, and that's what our animals know, and what our animals show up to us time and time again. And that's what really shamanism is about. Shamanism is, you live from the heart, you feel from the heart, you ask from the heart, you receive guidance from the heart. Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
I love that, where you said about you know, that our animals are almost like mirrors, you know, to what we are, what we need to work on, or to sit with, or understand, or accept, you know, insert word here, about ourselves. And I've said before about how cats and other animals, you know, are like sponges. You know, they soak up our emotion and our energy and our vibration. And you know, I've been talking for, you know, the last couple of months, and mentioning to people, you know, how do you show up for your cat? You know, how do you connect with them? Because like you said, you know, the irritation, the frustration that we have about them isn't actually about them, it's about us, you know. And I love the fact that the way that you're talking, it's almost like, yes, you can do a ceremony and have a session with your animal or with your cat, but it's also like, it's a great opportunity to look at yourself and to go within, to then be able to connect more. I mean, I find that, you know, I've got to be really mindful and really present with Leo, because, you know, he's had, in my opinion, he's had trauma because he was previously feral. He's a very timid cat, you know, but we're starting to find a beautiful connection between the two of us. And you know, he comes on my pillow first thing in the morning and he's giving me cuddles. Yet when the doorbell rings, he's straight out, either out the cat flap if it's open, or behind the sofa. And there's part of me that thinks, you know, we're working on building trust, and we've had him for just over 2 years, and we're making good progress. But actually, there's also a part of me that's like, but you know what? If he is timid and that's the way he is, that's the way he is, you know. And I'm not going to try to change that about him. I will give him the love, the nurture, and the respect that he asks from me and that I can give to him. But ultimately, I can't change the way he is. And I think that's one of the messages, and for me, one of the takeaways that I would like people to take from our conversation, certainly, is that, you know, every animal is unique, but actually there isn't a problem. There isn't something to fix. Now, yes, they may have something that they need help with or support with, like you mentioned about, you know, the doing the soul retrieval to help them have this sense of balance and wellness, you know. But actually, if we can't change the fundamentals of who they are, and the fundamentals of who they are, that's how they're meant to be with us in this moment. You know, I went from having Pickle, you know, very chunky, very laid back, very grumpy lady cat, you know, she's my baby girl, to Leo, who is literally like the complete opposite in many, many ways. But I love that, because it's another opportunity for me to learn more about myself. And from the connection that I have with him, whether that's being cognizant of the fact that I'm going to put my phone down because in this moment he's actually choosing to connect with me, and oh my God, isn't that an honor that I should respect and receive? You know, it's also about not trying to think, how can I change him? You know, what do I, you know, what expectations do I put on him of how I think he should be in my world? That's not, in my opinion, that's not fair. That's not what we're asking them when we're choosing to live with other, like you said, non-human beings. We should respect the way they are, that the way that soul has shown up in that animal. Like you said about you and I can never pronounce the name.
Tunkasila.
You know, you two have gone through some trauma, and actually you've been able to heal each other from that. And I just think that's amazing. And that's what I hope people will take away, that every animal is with us for a reason, for our souls to grow and to love and nurture each other. And I find it profound that there's this method of healing that you do that can go deeper than behavior. You know, we can talk about behavior, you know, we can use botanical remedies, we can, do you know what I mean, help things to a certain degree, but actually this amazing work that you do sounds like it's like another layer or 5 underneath, you know, when it's going to the soul and connecting in, it's deeper than the superficial stuff that you see, you know, like around the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it's really beautiful. There's quite a few things that I want to say to that as well, because there is, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes I do a shamanic ceremony and it's just like almost like overnight I'm like, wow, the animal's different. Like it's happening with horses, dogs, cats. Sometimes
Wow.
it's like, yeah, do you know what, like the, when you do a shamanic ceremony, it's just like what needs to come through will come through.
Hmm.
And so yeah, sometimes what the human sees as a challenge isn't a challenge for the cat, so there isn't a difference in that sense. But sometimes like,
Yeah.
wow, yeah, the cat has had a soul retrieval, or the cat needed, like, we needed to kind of pull this cat apart, or there was this, you know, sometimes I've had to like pull things out, I've had to put things in, I've had to send
Hmm.
some of like some spirits that I work with inside the body, like a deep cellular level. There's like, really, it's almost like I wish I could film the ceremonies, but you can't, because what I see,
Hmm.
you just see a room. Like, you
Hmm.
can't see what I see when I'm kind of
No.
in that altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
But from that perspective as well, I think what's also really helpful is, you're right, we've come together. So it's almost like we do have this agreement as souls to go, do you know what, like when we're back in the land of spirits, we're like, right, okay, do you know what, look, okay, so in this time, like, you're going to come back as this, I'm going to come back as that, and we're just literally going to have an experience together. But we
Hmm.
forget that as humans.
Hmm.
And so we have, it's not, for me, nothing's ever coincidence, it's always a synchronicity. So
Yes.
it's not uncanny that you had the cat that you had, and now you've got Leo, did you say?
Yeah.
You now got Leo, when you're just like, wow, he's a totally different cat altogether. Well, of course you will, because that allows you for your own evolution of like, if you
Exactly.
got a cat that was same as your previous cat, you're not going to learn. And so that's
No.
why we are here. But
Yep.
we're here to have these experiences that we have, that we've agreed to together.
Hmm.
But equally, yes, I think even where there is more understanding of a human has a soul, we do forget that everything that is living has a soul. So every animal, and really every animal that is suffering, has had trauma, um, is they also have agreed to have that experience at this moment in time.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
did, like, I also, what I also do is channeling. So I'll do it for my group, or when I'm doing a shamanic ceremony and speaking to the client,
Hmm.
I'll they'll ask at the end, they'll ask like maybe 2 or 3 questions, and I'll still just kind of connect, like it's almost like I'm feeling the soul of the cat or the animal, and then
Yeah.
I'll speak as if I'll speak for that, like it's not me speaking, it's the animal soul that's speaking.
Yeah.
um but someone asked the question about suffering, like, well, I connected to the collective consciousness of canines, and someone asked the question of, well, how do you feel about all the dogs that have all this suffering,
Mm.
you know, this kind of hatred, or
Mm.
the suffering that dogs can go through. And it was a really beautiful, like, reply, which was about, suffering is a vibration. While suffering exists as a frequency in the cosmos or on this earth, then souls that are in beings at this moment in time as individuals, some have to experience suffering because it's something that exists.
Hmm.
And it's just like, wow, was for
Very
me, it was really
profound.
profound, because I thought it was good. Like, I was again thinking like, oh, what's going to come through? Yeah, like humans, isn't it? But you know, because you're
Mm-hmm.
connecting to the soul has no judgment. The soul, it just is. It just is. For
Mm-hmm.
again, yes, making change. The whole point is to come back as to oneness, to come back into to one heart, one mind, to come back into coherence, to come back into oneness to all that is, to this heightened vibration of unconditional love. Like, that's what we as spirits are striving for. That's why we're here, to promote like unconditional love, unconditional love.
Mm.
So at the moment, suffering is an energy. It exists.
Mm.
It's a form.
Yeah.
So souls that are here is all these different animals: cats, mice, bees, humans, everything, grass, waters. Some individuals, some parts are going to experience that suffering because it exists, um, which I found really profound and beautiful. But yeah, from that perspective as well, it's um, sometimes the shamanic ceremony that is asked for the animal or for the cat is a doorway that opens up for the human guardian to go, oh, this is about, oh, right, this is about me. Because of course we don't want to see it, because are living most of us kind of feel bad about ourselves in the first place, that we don't need anybody else to tell us. It's like, I already know I'm a bad person, so you don't need to tell me that. But again, it's just not true.
Yeah.
And so again, our animals are just so beautiful at showing up to remind us of this honesty and authenticity. And I think that's also why sometimes people can get frustrated with their animals, because we want to show up authentically as they do, and often
Yeah.
we feel like, oh well, I better not, because I might say this and that person might take offense, or this person might not quite understand what I mean, or this person might disagree with me. And that's why I love just being around animals and having this learning and adventure and journey with them, because they don't have any of that judgment. They will speak the truth. They're not like, oh, if I say this you might get offended, and they never do cause offense, but they speak the truth. And that's why, like, in my book, so when I do a shamanic ceremony, I have like a little journal.
Oh, nice.
It just says a canine soul and sewing record. This is my dog book, but I keep all the records. And when I do a ceremony, I then at the end I ask, before I meet with a client, is there anything that you want to share? And I just hold my pen and just get my pen to write. And you know, it's never really about, oh, you know, well, my back leg, my back leg's so sore, I'm limping, or like sometimes it is, oh, I'd really love some cream and custard in it. But like, you kind of sometimes get the beautiful kind of spirit of the animal coming through with what the animal is at that time. But most of the time I get these really deep spiritual, like these ancient beings, or they're just really wise words, which actually tend to be more a message for us. They tend to be more a message for the human. And they're really profound. They're really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, Isla, I mean, the job that you do, I mean, it sounds beautiful, it sounds amazing, and I'm so grateful that there is someone like you that's helping our animals, because, and I'm sure there's others, don't get me wrong, out in the world,
there absolutely is.
Out in the world, but I knew you from a very different place a very long time ago, and I have to say, you have blossomed, and you talk with such passion and such authenticity and belief in what you do and how you connect. It's really inspiring. It really is. Okay, so has anybody before I wrap us up, does anybody have any questions for Isla? I'm conscious that I told you the time would just go. I mean,
actually, I'm just looking at it, I can't believe it. And actually, one thing that I want to say with what you mentioned about, like, also the beauty of botanics is, and this is what I'm doing now in my ceremonies as well. Sometimes a plant spirit will show itself, and because everything has a spirit, everything has a vibration. So even with the botanical aromas that we work with, they are classed as subtle aromas, so they have their own spirit. And so there is actually a way which I'm hoping to bring forward soon for people that do work with essential oils, but looking at how do we connect to the spirit of that oil and also the spirit of the animal, because that's a beautiful communion as well. It's such a beautiful communication that brings healing. There is a shaman that I'm just like, I want to be able to do that. There's a shaman that I follow who literally can now, in a ceremony, in a healing, the spirit of the plant will show itself, and just by calling forward the spirit of that plant, the healing happens. So because one of the things that I'm aware of, again, it's about conservation, isn't it? So there is, when something comes out where we know this can make a difference, people are like, oh, well, if it can make a difference, I'm going to use it, I'm going to try it. And I'm like, wow, it takes so much of the plant to create that oil. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we can all get to this place where we're actually just working with the spirit of that plant and asking it to come forward and do its thing?
That sounds magical. That sounds absolutely amazing. So before I wrap us up completely, two things. So one is let people know where they can find out more about you, which social media you're on, and if you've got a website where people can find out, if they want to look into more about getting a session with you.
Okay, so, well, it's just like perfect timing. As I said, there's no such thing as coincidences. It's always synchronicities. Last week I gave a talk to a conscious pet parent community about it was dogs, but it's called Canine Nourishment of a Different Kind. But it's all really about how we support our animals, our dogs' spiritual nourishment, and that's just been posted on Facebook today as well, just a few hours ago. So if you go into my Facebook page, my personal page is Isla Fishburn, my business page is Kachina Canine Wellness.
Can you spell that for us?
There's a link on there. Say that again.
Can you just spell that? Spell your page.
Yes, Kachina, Kachina. Kachina, canine, as in the word, not the letter and the number. Wellness, and there is, again, it's kind of directed for dogs, but there's a free ebook that you can download, which kind of, it's seven ways to connect with your dog and understand what they're feeling, but it's more about the spirit and the soul and the dog as an individual. So it's more about wellness rather than specifically kind of dog. And then my website is kachinacanine.com. the soul work really, like, I've got 3 pages that I'm desperate to write, and the 3 pages are there, but there's nothing written in them yet. Because I'm just like, because time, right? I'm just like, I don't have any time.
Yeah.
But so there's 3 pages, like one is like soul work for your dog, soul work for you, and then you click on it, it's like coming soon, which has actually been there since like February. I've got to say, it will happen. It will happen. So you can go on there. But my Facebook, if you want to message me, I have my Instagram, which is Kachina Canine Wellness. And then you can email me, ilafishburn@kachinak9.com. I also run, every year I run a 5-month shamanic teaching and healing program called Sacred Creator. So that's for humans. It's called Sacred Creator. It came to me on one of my vision quests and also a dream time. So the symbol came to my vision quest and the name came to me in a dream time, which is really about, honoring, believing, trusting, remembering the sacred creator that you are, so you walk your authentic true path, and how just as you do it, it just creates a ripple effect. So many people are like, oh, I don't really care about me, but I care about everybody else. Like, you've got to work on yourself, because if you do, it gives permission for everybody else to do that. But also it's like dropping a little pebble in a river. Blub, 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 blub. It creates that ripple effect. That's the beauty of it. You're working on yourself really is the most powerful way to spread that into the collective. And then I'll tell you more about the shamanic ceremonies if anybody is interested.
Yes, excellent. Okay, and then finally, what is your one nugget? What is the one takeaway that you want people to have from our session? What's your one piece of advice?
I can't just do one.
I know. I always say that.
Everything. Do you know, right now, what's coming through right now is like really just do not take yourself or life too seriously. Which I know we do. Like I used to. Like I know Julianne doesn't even know a lot of it, but she knows more how I used to be to where I am now. But I used to live a very different life. You know, I was in a place where I didn't think or believe I was deserving of anything, so I actually placed myself in an abusive relationship. That is the truth, because I'm like, well, I'm not deserving of love, so that's what I attracted, and that's maybe a talk for another time. But I used to live from a very, very different place. Now that I live very differently, if I could make an elixir to give someone to take, to go, here, have this, and you're just gonna feel how different it is. That's kind of what I really want to promote for all of life, for everything. And so not taking ourselves too seriously, but also experience. This is, open up to have an adventure, open up to listen from your heart, open up to go into just stillness, even if it's just for 5 seconds, and to know that if you exist from your mind and only from your mind, you are both your captive and captor, and it's cyclic. You just get caught in this spiral. So just give yourself permission in a way that is soft, in a way that is peaceful, and just a way, as I say, just maybe 30 seconds to go, I'm just going to stop and remind myself of just laughing, not taking life too seriously, and experience, just having an experience that we don't need to analyse, that we don't need to judge, that we don't need to blame, that we just need to go, why is that presenting itself now? What have I got to learn from this? Is this something that's focused on my cat? Is it focused on me? Is it both of us? Because everything is a lesson, everything is a teaching when we are present to see it that way.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've been encouraging people to do, is to put your phone to one side, mute, turn off the telly, take a deep breath, connect with yourself, connect with the moment, and look at your cat, see them, like you said, see yourself, see what comes through, see how you feel. Isla, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, my love, for coming and talking to everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
It's been brilliant. Thank you. And I'm sure that I'll have you back again, because I mean, at the minute I've got so many questions going around in my head, but thank you ever so much for joining us. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Oh, many blessings, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening in, and have a beautiful dream time tonight. Go into that dream time with a clear heart and clear mind.
Love it. Great advice. Thank you very much, Isla, and thank you
welcome.
everyone for joining us. I will see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.